My father was born in October 1918 on the 5th day, 37 days before the end of World War I. My father was one of the men who laid steel veins across the borders between Botswana and Zimbabwe. He was a migrant worker in his 50s when I was born. And one of the great lessons that I learned from him was that you go where there is work and where your skills are needed. I did not spend much time with him, but that was the legacy that he left me with. When I was born, my mother was in her mid-40s. And as most mothers, you know that they also worked to supplement the family income. So my mother would wake up in the morning and go to the railway line that my father had worked on and sell tomatoes to supplement the family income. As the last born of 9 children, my siblings were commissioned or had a responsibility to the rest of us younger ones to look after us, because that's the community and responsibility that was instilled in all of us. Another thing that my mother did very well was instill faith and belief in a higher power. So yeah, I was one of those children that would go to, I don't know if most of you know, there were those Thursday meetings that our mothers would go to, and I would go into those meetings, the women's meetings, and I'd be the only child sitting there listening attentively, and I guess that gave me a certain boldness. And so at a very young age, I began getting into rooms that would generally not be permitted for the young ones like myself. My grandfather was a missionary. He traversed the length and breadth of Botswana with the Anglican missionaries, spreading the word, teaching different communities about different beliefs. He ended up in Bulawayo, Kontutu, the killing fields, as those of you who know about Shaka Zulu and how, the Zulu nation literally scattered from Zululand through into Botswana, ending up in Zimbabwe and further afield. That's where my grandfather ended up. And they started a school called St. Columbus. My grandfather did not only love teaching, he also played a keyboard. He played the piano. And I was told, growing up, that he even played for King George. One of the things that my father spoke about intently, my grandfather rather, spoke about and was keen on was that if you don't understand something, or if you come to him and you ask something that he believes you should know, he would say to you, go and read. So that was a lesson that all of us knew. We had to ensure that you don't ask silly questions, that you can find out the truth about yourself. So from these 3 pillars of my life, my worldview was formed. Some of my early memories are sitting at the footstool at my mother's feet, especially when we had visitors. You know how they would be served an ice-cold Fanta orange and Coca-Cola, and who would be there sitting there? eyeing gleefully at these cold drinks that only came out when visitors came. And I would just watch intently. And as soon as I saw the amount of Coca-Cola and Fanta diminish, I would scream, "Lami ngiyafuna! I want also." One would expect that I would receive a hiding. But no, that was not my mother. Instead, she never dimmed my light, that confidence for me to ask for what I want and what I need. I was allowed to express myself. That was one of my first worldviews. As I went into university, having done French, maths, and physics as my A-levels, I wanted to do law for some reason, because I had the savior mentality that I want to save the world. I want to fight for the underdog. Get to University of Botswana. I'm not able to. I can't qualify for law. Okay, I can't do law. Let me do French. I can be a diplomat and serve my country. Spread the word about how wonderful our country is. We've become almost a middle-income country. Lo and behold, University of Botswana did not have a degree in French. All I was left with was a degree in business. I was slightly disappointed, but ever the proverbial optimist, I said, maybe this is my destiny. Maybe this is my chosen path. I took on the degree with glee. One of the milestones that I had during my tenure at the university, we began through ISEC, an organization I belonged to. We began the business clinic with some of my colleagues. Today, it still stands over 20 years later. That, for me, was because I remained optimistic. As I moved into my career in banking, these traits stood me in good stead. That sihakaliness where I would say, "Lami ngiyafuna." Sihakali is being cheeky, it's being forward, to name a few, similar adjectives that would describe that cheekiness in the cheeky Setswana word. Yeah, I was a sihakali. I went into boardrooms where a young person like myself probably had no room to be in, because I was the one who always put up my, "Yes, I can," if anyone was ever asked to do anything. That was me. Also, one of the things, the bravery that I had learned from my 3 icons, stood me in good stead, because when I started working, I could not speak Setswana, but I was serving blue-collar workers as part of my executive training. They did not speak English. I would break the language, but they were patient with me. And because of my confidence, I had absolutely no qualms that I spoke it with a terrible accent. Half the time they couldn't hear me or understand. They could hear me but not understand, but they were patient. It showed the humility. It showed that I could put myself in their space and try and be part of their world so that I could help them. I also loved my clients, so that wanting to serve and help remained with me. I had so many tales of customers that came, and I would wanting to do business or get a facility. And I would immerse myself in their business. I would feel their pain and struggle, and it was, oh, there goes Grace again, fighting for sometimes, maybe in their eyes, a lost cause. But I'm glad that they are, in most instances, some of the businesses I fought for, today they are icons in our industry. Some are listed, and I am grateful to my 3 icons. So, as a leader who has reached, who is at crossroads, I ask myself, what will it take for me to transcend to my next chapter? The lessons I have learned that I have carried from my icons and guardian angels, will they sustain me and carry me through? Some of the lessons I have learned are very recent. My daughter finished high school, wants an account. Mom, you work in a bank, I want an account. Say, do your research, decide which bank you want, come and tell me where you want to open an account. Unati comes to me, Mom, I found a bank. I've given them my documents. I've decided that's where I want to bank. All they need is a deposit, and they'll deliver the card. Okay. Which bank is this? She tells me. Why did you choose it? I did not have to leave my room. Gen Z, huh? They don't want to leave their room. Everything is digital. They are conscious of the environment. That's who they are. This Monday, I sat next to an old lady in another institution. We were there for an hour, over an hour, and the queue was still very long. So I said to her, Mama, how come you are still here and you're not complaining? Arungwanak, my child. In this bank, they know what I want. They even give me money at my age when I need to do something, because my money is with them already. And they know that I have a pension that will come, or I would have planted, and then from the money I get from my harvest, I'll be able to pay. So they get me. So that's why I sit here and wait for them to serve me. So indeed, not only am I at a crossroads in my career, but even with these 2 different, very convergent outlooks in life. The Gen Zs, I don't know if Gogo or Granny was a baby boomer, or I don't know who's earlier than the baby boomers. Probably closer to the age of my brothers, who are my elder brothers in their late 70s, almost 80. So what leadership is needed for these to lead these 2 groups and many others who are beyond just being, one would say, different colors and different needs and different systems? What will it take? I believe as a leader, for me to survive or remain relevant, I must be intentional. Be deliberate about understanding my cohort, who I lead, who I serve, so that I can best lead them. I must also be attentive, listen, and watch, as I did with that granny Gogo at that bank. Understand what she wants. And also be able to understand and be attentive to the needs of your Gen Zs. Goodness knows what the Gen Alphas are going to want. But I'll be there, I'll be ready. You better be as well if you want to remain relevant. Intentionality. Let's just remain curious. Let's just be intentional about wanting to remain relevant, consistently evolve, because if we don't, we will indeed become irrelevant, and we will not reach the fullness of our destinies.